Trading is closed on the 27th of December 2022. Let's start with our disclaimer as we always do. So my trading plan for Wednesday, December 28th, 2022. Please remember that my plan can be wrong. Any trade you make should be at your own risk. Look for the pattern with the early high, which is this, and tomorrow should also have the early high. We thought the open would dictate the day's trade. Here's what we said. Well, the open was unchanged and we closed a little changed. We then had a drop right from the open and we did close lower, but frankly, by the time that printed, anyone acting on it couldn't really make any money. It did argue against going long on these breakouts, but that's about it. Hard to give yourself a grade on that. This is a pattern which, like Fridays, tends to rally in the close or have a straight line drop. That didn't happen. Should be resolved by gapping smartly one way or the other tomorrow. Usually when I give a call and we trade a little change, I just repeat the call, and essentially that's what I'm doing now. We had signals. We had the ultimate signal in the morning. It was a buy. That worked. We had a lower target that printed. There's an optional target, 38.1924. Doesn't have to print, but it'll print 95% of the time by tomorrow's close. And if not, we'll forget it. This F means MEJT says this drop is false. Gives us a target 38.4043. If you don't get down smartly, that's tomorrow's call. And there's an optional target, just a few pennies away from that. And don't forget, these optional targets don't have to print, but they almost always will. So we have a slightly higher target. We have a call for a probable gap opening, but with these higher and lower optional targets likely to print, at least it's possible we get another whipsaw day. Still have lower and higher targets. Higher target, I want to see this green line print. Doesn't mean you won't go lower first. I've relabeled the waves for the reasons I discussed in my Christmas video. I had this as a 3-wave pattern, which it could be, but I'm now counting it as a 5. If that's the right count, we should see 3 waves down, so we have a lower target too. Doesn't mean you won't go higher first. But I'm now thinking this low is going to hold and probably marks the end in point terms of the bear market. This is a trend line going back 20 years plus. We stopped right on it. I changed my labeling of point green A. It doesn't change anything else, but I made this low an expanded flat, and the actual low here, when you do that, the fibs work perfectly. So well over 30 years of trading, you get great fibs all the way up on multiple time frames. So we have a trend line for over 20 years, fib ratios and wave counts for over 30 years, all arguing for this low holding. And if it holds, a retest, which I think will happen, whereas you could have more consolidation, which might last as long as this consolidation. I think it's more likely after 30 years of consolidating in wave terms, the long-term bullish trend of the market could resume. You don't have to risk money on that now because the low is well over 300 handles over where we closed today, so don't have to jump the gun. Wednesday's pattern has a really high, doesn't mean you won't gap down. Today saw neither the rally into the close nor the straight line drop, typical of the pattern. Gap sharply tomorrow, that should resolve it. There's a higher target. If we don't gap down smartly, there will say it prints. I have optional targets both higher and lower than today's close. Either one has to print, but almost always both of those print, so it could be another whipsaw day. My preferred wave count, stressing it's not the only one, my preferred wave count now has the October low, holding a retest. That low's under 3,500. So we don't have to jump the gun on the long side. And I do have lower prices first, even if we rally tomorrow. But most likely sometime early next year, if that counts right, we'll confirm it was a major low. A once in a generation completion of a long pattern. And if that low holds, there's a good chance by this time next year we'll be at much higher prices. And that's today's call.